Members debating in opposition will be Representative Bennett John for 10 minutes, Representative Humphrey for 10 minutes, Representative Strohm for 10 minutes. Members debating for the measure will be Representative Munson for 10 minutes and Representative Rosecrants for 10 minutes. At this time, I'll recognize Representative Strohm for 10 minutes of debate in opposition to House Bill 2734.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last year we heard a similar bill, and that bill ultimately was terminated for a number of reasons. Currently in state statute, we have legislation that addresses these issues. This bill is nothing more than an effort to promote an agenda that's contrary to Oklahoma values, or at least the values that Oklahoma used to endorse. I was told that I need to be careful because I have an election coming up. But certain things are a whole lot more important than worrying about getting reelected. We have our children in our state that could potentially, under the guise of local control, be given, Mr. Speaker, is it appropriate for a member to be filming on the floor? By cam? All right, that's fine.
Representative Strohm, you're recognized to continue your debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill says medically accurate and appropriate for the student's age, development stage, and culture. Mr. Speaker, there are cultures that endorse and condone female genital mutilation. Are those the sorts of things that we want taught in our Oklahoma schools? Promote safe and healthy relationships. There's no guidance as to whether that's based upon gender, with animal, or any other type of guidance. Mr. Speaker, this bill is a wide open door for a local school district to take a politically charged item and potentially subject our children to education and training that, I will say once again, I believe is inconsistent with Oklahoma values. Last year we heard a very similar bill, a bill that is very similar to language promoted by groups like MoveOn.org. And if we continue to move the bar in terms of what traditional values are, and this bill definitely does that, then I would suggest that we are in danger of losing our culture. With that said, I really respectfully ask for a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Gentlelady from Oklahoma City, Representative Munson, you're recognized for 10 minutes of debate in favor of House Bill 2734.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I was not planning to stand up and debate in favor of this bill, but I thought I would do so, one, to help my colleague out who's been here less than a year, who's working on a piece of legislation that is extremely important to the young people of our state. I'm also standing because I'm a woman, and I know what it's like when you say no and some people keep pushing on you. So, and also my background in youth development and helping young women in elementary school, middle school, and high school speak up for themselves. And when they say no, they know that no means no, and how to express that to someone who is either trying to abuse them or push them to do something that they aren't willing to do, or showing disrespect, as my colleague from the Duncan area mentioned in his questioning. When we talk about Oklahoma values, our number one value should be to protect children. When a 16-year-old is raped and then turns 8 or becomes a senior in high school and has the bravery to call a state representative to share her story, to tell this new member to stand up for her, to protect her, to me, that's courageous. And that's something that we should be focusing on this House floor. We do so many things that I feel like push us backwards and hurt Oklahomans. And we have an opportunity to stand up for our Oklahoma values, and that's to protect our kids. We can do that in many ways, but one of the ways that we can do that is to equip our teachers with curriculum and program and training to help them protect the children that they teach every day. Your children, young people that I've helped in my career with the Girl Scouts. It's a hard conversation to have with your students if you have a student come up to you and say that they've been raped or assaulted. And that number is growing, by the way, in adolescent ages. It doesn't happen just as an adult. It happens to middle school boys and girls, regardless of their sexual orientation. So I'm not going to take up my entire time. I just want to make clear what the bill does. The bill protects our children. It equips teachers with the program and the training, the curriculum they need to protect the students that they're teaching and to better equip them. It's not a left-wing or right-wing agenda. It's simply to help our students and help our teachers, and specifically help this young woman, Lauren, who had the bravery and the courage to call her state representative and ask him to support her and to protect her. So I ask you to vote yes and to support my colleague. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Munson, for your debate. Gentleman from Salisaw, Representative Bennett John, you're recognized for 10 minutes of debate in opposition to House Bill 2734.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, just like my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, I didn't plan on debating against this either until I started to read it and realize the detrimental impact it's going to have in our schools. The same impact that the similar legislation that's been passed in other states have had all across the United States. And parents now are standing up and even suing in the courts, and I'll share that with you in a minute, saying, hey, somebody's got to stop this. Now, nobody's against local control. Everybody wants local control. I'm all for that. That's a Republican standard. But when you open up that door, you know what else you do? You open that door for whoever's in charge of that program at the local level to implement whatever doctrine they want and get into an inside door or window to our children. It's a slippery slope, and it's been proven across the United States, especially in places like Detroit, Michigan, and other places like that. Now, there's been other avenues that's got them into where they are today, but it's no different than this avenue that we're looking at here today. Everyone wants to protect their kids. I've got kids in school. I parent a little bit different than most. I tell them if they get bullied to handle it in a different way than some others would. If you want to know what that is, I'll tell you after this debate in private. But nobody wants their kid to be bullied. And if a child is raped or someone is hurt, of course we want them to report that to somebody. And that is why we have teachers. Teachers are giving their lives to our children and what they do at the schools. They build personal relationships with our children, or should be. And because of that personal relationship, that gives them the door to go tell somebody what's going on or what's happening. You know what happens when government gets involved? Things go south fast. And that's exactly what we're doing. This is not local control. All we're doing is giving cover for somebody that has a personal agenda to get in to your child's ears and tell them what they want them to believe. Let's take a look at some of this stuff here. You know, I heard, and I hear this a lot, it's all about protecting the kids. Absolutely it is. And that's why I'm debating against this bill. If it's about protecting our kids, then why are we trying to open the door to indoctrinate them just like this guy's child was in another state? This is his actual sworn statement to a court of law. And I want to read some of this to you. And I quote, "After moving my family to a new location because of the threats, I decided to place my children in a new school in the hopes of getting a new start. My daughter entered into the 8th grade. The school conducted an anti-suicide week. The teacher, Miss Coffin, took it upon herself to show the students a pro-gay video that was not part of the programming. The video displayed 2 boys in bed being romantic with each other. Oh, by the way, last year it was admitted on this House floor that this legislation was specifically to help gay individuals that are having a relationship, to teach them how to have safe sex so they didn't catch AIDS. The video displayed 2 boys being romantic with each other. Miss Coffin told the students not to tell their parents that she showed them the video. In response, my daughter went straight home and told me what had happened because I have raised her to report wrongdoing like that. Since secular humanists have no standard of right and wrong, there's no standard for character and decency, which means in reality that secular humanists in position of authority are oftentimes a terrible influence." He went on to say that Ms. Coffin is pro-transgender, very pro-LGBTQ. In keeping with a pattern of inappropriate behavior, she friends students on Instagram. My daughter was following her. This teacher is a devout secular humanist who prides herself of not believing in truth and is all around a bad influence for failing to know the objective difference between right and wrong and real and fake. In response to showing the pro-LGBTQ video, I called the principal of the school, Dr. Branch. He said that he would investigate. A Christian publication contacted the Board of Education. The principal reported back to me that the students wanted Ms. Coffin to play the video. My daughter was called to the principal's office where the principal told her that students who lie makes his job harder. This caused my daughter to have a panic attack and she had to go see the school nurse. The Board of Education then investigated the principal for bullying. Meanwhile, I am in disbelief at the lack of moral compass manifested by secular humanist educators whose salaries fall on the taxpayers' shoulders like myself. End quote. And this whole stack right here is nothing but sworn statement in a court of law because the kids that we're supposed to be protecting are being bullied by other kids and teachers that have their own personal agenda, and it's primarily the LGBTQ, the transgenderism, and some other stuff as well. If we're protecting our kids, why are we opening up this door and allowing them to be attacked? Because that is simply what it is. Now, if they want to be homosexual, transgender, they can be whatever they want. That's fine. They have to answer to God. They don't have to answer to me for that. If they want to do that, that's fine. But why on earth would we as a government body allow the door to open so grown adults and other children will have a right and an ability to get in there and talk your kids into thinking it's okay because it's their agenda? It's not okay. And by you voting yes on this bill, you're saying it's okay, and you're putting your own children at risk. I'm telling you, this is a slippery slope. You go research it. You can Google anything nowadays, and you can see case after case after case. And finally, parents are starting to fight back because they're not so scared to be politically incorrect anymore. Our moral compass in the United States of America, and even in the state of Oklahoma, is broken. And this body is allowing it to happen with bills like this. Because they're slick and they sneak through here, and when you read it, you think, well, that's a good deal. Because everyone wants to take care of kids when it comes to rape or abuse of any kind. But you know what they're doing? They're using a Trojan horse, and you're all being fooled by it. I'm telling you, it's a Trojan horse. There's numerous cases in Detroit, Michigan. Numerous cases where the school board has used similar language and allowed teachers to tell their students, it's okay, you can tell me about certain things, but if it doesn't fit their agenda, they cover it up. And you know what they've been covering up? Female genital mutilation. It's happening in the United States of America. And some of you smirk a little, and I hear some stuff from the other side of the aisle where they're laughing. That's fine. Go Google it. This is a real thing. And guess who is the ones that's being hurt in this whole deal? The kids. How about protecting the kids? That's what we're supposed to do, right? We heard it from the other side. Vote no on this bill and you can protect these children. I mean, this thing is just rampant with so many things that could go wrong depending on who's implementing the program. And what are you going to do when they call you and the school says, or someone, a kid or a parent says, hey, they're doing this in my school, you need to stop them. Oh, we can't do that. We passed a law to allow them to do that. That's not the right answer. The right answer is having some moral fortitude and saying, I'm not going to stand for that. I'm not going to vote for this bill and give them the opportunity, for one. But two, if it ever does happen, then you got to be able to stand up and say, you know what? I don't care if it's not politically correct. I'm going to stand up for my constituents and these children and protect them. Because that's the number one job of the government, public safety. Just because they're children doesn't mean that we don't have to protect them. Now, not all schools are going to abuse this, but all it takes is one. Do we really want to open that door when they already have the capabilities there? If a child has an issue, they go to a teacher. The teacher does a job, they go to the principal. The principal goes on up the chain. If it's criminal, they call law enforcement. I've been called to school several times for criminal issues. We don't need this to protect our kids. As a matter of fact, we don't need this, or it'll cause more turmoil in the schools. So if you really want to protect the kids, you want to do what's right and be adherent to our Oklahoma values and make sure our moral compass is right on track where it needs to be, vote no on this horrible, horrible bill. If you vote yes, just stand by to be accountable for what you've allowed to go into our school systems and that the fact that you failed to protect our kids. I highly encourage you to think hard about this and vote no on this bill. It's a horrible bill.
Representative Bennett, do you yield to questions?
No.
Gentleman does not yield. Representative Rosecrants, you are recognized for 10 minutes of closing debate in favor of House Bill 2734.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want everybody to know here that I was a teacher, okay? I've had these conversations with children that would come up to me and tell me these stories. I've had to call the authorities when this situation happens. It's something that's close to my heart. Whenever I was in high school, I remember seeing situations, but I never really thought about it. And so now we have this issue, and it is an issue. Again, 1/3 of sexual assaults are to girls under the age of 18. I want you to think about that. Also, you talk about opening a door. Well, the kind of door I'm opening is to help our young adults to help prevent sexual assault. That's the Oklahoma standard. That's what we need to believe in. We need to be understanding that this is a problem and that it can be taken care of. First of all, my bill is all about local control. The Safe Schools Committee is something that's made up of teachers from the area. It's going to be even students, and it's going to be parents, and they help make the decisions. It's not going to be opening up any kind of door for anything else that the school does not, that committee does not deem correct. And guys, we're in Oklahoma, okay? What that means is that we all have the same needs. We all have the same what we want. We want to protect children. This bill protects our children because now they will go into this thinking this is a very, very bad idea. It's in law. They're breaking the law. As the journey for this bill continued, I met Lauren Adkins, who can't be here today because, honestly, I didn't know when to tell her to come in because I didn't know if my bill was going to be heard or not. Appreciate that. It's just, you get to know her, you see the situation, and you think that is so many other girls in Oklahoma and in the United States. Right now, we're in the Me Too movement. I want you to think about what that is. That's putting a spotlight on sexual assault. So this is just going along with that as well to make sure that we understand that we're trying to give our children the supports that they need to be able to prevent sexual assault. That's all it's really about for me. I got to be honest with you. I'm not only a teacher, I'm also a father of a young daughter. She's 10 years old. I'm also a father of a boy as well. He's 9 years old. They need to understand when they get to that age that this is not an okay thing to do, okay? Now, I can parent my kids however I want to, and that's what this bill allows them to do as well. This is all about local control. We are not mandating anything. This is just something that I think that in this day and age needs to be brought up and spoken about. And again, we're leaving it up to the local schools themselves. So I will tell you that not only do I want you to vote yes on this bill, I want you to understand that by voting yes on this bill, you are backing up our young people and giving them the supports that they need to protect themselves against sexual assault. And in the words of my esteemed colleague from Grove, it's a good bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your debate. Members, you've heard the debate. Question for the House. Shall the bill pass? Clerk will activate the machines. Sergeants announce roll call in the halls. Roll call is now in progress. Declare the vote.
54 aye, 34 nay.
Having received a majority vote of those elected to and constituted the House, I declare the bill to have passed.